Hey, welcome to another episode of Thinking Out
Hi.
Loud Live, where we discuss our thoughts on certain topics, mostly about entrepreneurship and mental health. We've been doing this for the past couple of months now, I
Since
think.
like early March, since all this like COVID thing happened.
Yeah, so
So
what really got us
yeah,
started?
4 months. 4 months.
Yeah, it's mostly, this was made possible with Start Day One, our nonprofit foundation for suicide prevention and mental health. We just have a more proactive approach in the way we help people. Most organizations and society as a whole is just more reactive, and they actually wait for mental health issues and suicidal tendencies. We believe that it's from our experience, it's just been more effective when you reach out beforehand. Because people don't need help because they're suicidal. They actually need help. That's why they're suicidal. And that's why we want to do it more proactively. We were supposed to have a guest today, or Rafael dos Santos,
Yeah,
but
we
we're not
don't
sure
know.
what happened to
We
him.
don't know where he is.
Yeah, he's in London
He's in
somewhere.
London somewhere, but we don't know where he is or what happened. So
We haven't heard from him. We're trying to reach out to him, but he was actually going to talk about um, finding yourself, your identity by, losing yourself.
Yeah.
And he actually had a crazy experience. He was from Brazil.
Mhm.
Um, he's actually, he's gay, and it's not really well accepted there.
Mhm.
So he actually just freaking moved out. He just left. And hey, what's up, Kevin? And so he went to London, and so he was a migrant there, and he's been kind of a spokesperson for migrant workers.
Mhm.
And it was interesting when I talked to him, because he moved there, and he was talking about, like, you don't really have the connections that that you have when you move somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't talk the language or speak the language, when you don't have any connections, you don't have any funding, your work and all that stuff. So
He
we
went there
really,
completely blind.
yeah,
you
we
know?
really wanted to, allow him to give his story, and where he came from and what he's doing. Too bad he's not here, but so.
Yeah, I mean, because now he's very successful. He gives TED Talks. He's,
Yeah.
he's married. He's been all over the world. He's written books and what have you. So,
Yeah. Just super nice guy, and he's always willing to talk. He's actually the CEO of actually, if you could get his info. Not sure where you are, Rafael, but we're gonna hook you up anyway. This is how you reach him.
This is how you reach out to him if you're planning on failing your country and going somewhere else to work or live or whatever, just to get the hell out. Like a lot of people want to get out of the U.S. right now.
So. Yeah, so you can see he's achieved so much in the time that, as a migrant, coming out of nowhere, moving out, and really leaving everything behind to achieve what he's achieved. It's really impressive. So I don't know if you're watching, Rafael, but we're here waiting for you. Well, let's talk about identity. So it's funny, I'm reading this book, and it's called Personality Isn't Permanent. Mm-hmm. We're actually going to have the author.
It's a great book.
As one of our speakers that we're going to be interviewing and having a discussion with. His book is awesome. And what's great is that everything he says is kind of in line with everything we're always mentioning. It's all about being proactive. It's your kind of your future self is what you really want to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
You don't dwell on the past. But anyway, as far as identity, one of the things that he mentions on there is that your goals should actually determine your identity.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the other way around.
Right.
Where you try to come up with your identity. That's almost impossible, because it's based on the things that you do. At least this is what I've gotten from it. I'm going to have to read it again just to make sure. I don't want to mess it up for you there, Benjamin Hardy, PhD. But what I've gotten from it is that, and it makes sense, because passion and goals and all that stuff they're just the results of things. Mm-hmm. That's not how you start. You can't have a goal towards something if you don't know what that goal is or what it's even for.
Right.
Same thing with your identity. You can't figure out who you are if you don't have any experience or any, if you don't know what you like. Like, I can't say I want to be the best skateboarder in the world if I never skated. Right. The only way for me to find that out is I have to skate. Or I want to be the best, I want to do something to change the world with mental health and suicide prevention. Well, unless I deal with that stuff and research and do that, that's where the passion came from. I didn't just go like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about mental health and suicide prevention, and then come up with a clothing line. Like that's
didn't work that way.
Yeah, kind of because of our experience. Obviously, for people that don't know, I lost my brother to suicide. That's actually not the reason. A lot of people believe that the clothing line that we own, Fuke Clothing and Start Day One, it all stemmed from that. But actually, I never really talked about that. It was just that it's part of my experience, so I understood it, but I didn't want people buying stuff just because of my story. Right. But when we talk to people, obviously
at events and stuff,
when you're trying to inspire and motivate people, it always tends to just come up. Like, for example, people will say like, oh, I wish my cousin knew this, I wish I knew this, because I was actually suicidal. And from doing the Fuke Clothing events, every time after the event, people would come up to us and say, hey, you really inspired me, you really changed my perspective and all that stuff. And then the best ones are the ones that go, dude, I was actually suicidal.
Like we get, we would get emails. We get them all the time. Well, we haven't had any events lately, but we get them usually after at least one after every event that we do. An email from someone stating that, I met you guys, or I met one of you, or what have you. I met him. Usually it's him. And I was suicidal. And after speaking with you, I decided to change my life and, not be, they're no longer suicidal, and basically flat out saying that, he saved their life.
Yeah.
So that's huge. Like, people don't get those messages all the time, and he gets them all the time.
Yeah, and I was just doing my thing. I wasn't.
You're just being him, though.
Yeah, I was just doing my thing. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy and stuff like that. So, but it's obviously it's fulfilling as hell. Being able to get those kinds of emails. It's actually
that kept us going. That kept us keep the Fuke Clothing going for as long as it has, and continuing to go.
Yeah.
Because of those stories, because, we know we're helping people.
Yeah, the brand itself is actually what kept me going. It wasn't the other way around. Right. It kept the brand going. It's like, well, the people keep saying this, I guess I'll just keep on going, And that's where it all stemmed from. It. I mean, just where I ended up now, why I'm even doing this, and why we came up with a nonprofit, all that stuff. It's funny, but it all stemmed just from the clothing line.
Yeah.
And
it all kind of stemmed from the clothing.
Yeah, like I remember I was with my friend trying to figure out our mission, because
Roger
Mazzella, I'll give you a little shout out.
Little love.
Roger Mazzella, he we were discussing this, and he's just like, so I told him like, all right, well, what is it about the brand? Like, what the hell is it? Like, let's analyze. Why do we say fuck it anyway? Obviously I'm trying to get people to say fuck it more, but why do we say it? And I kind of knew what it was, but I didn't really have the wisdom yet. And anyway, when we were talking about it, we were talking about why we say it, and I always said it's like there's kind of two reasons. Like both of them are the act of moving forward, but one was based on the past. I always remember it's all about the regrets, letting go and things like that.
Yeah.
So that was the simple part, like live life without regret. And then I always said, like, you say it like when it's, something is worth the risk. That's what I kept telling him. Like, something like a challenge, it's worth the risk. Like you take the challenge, or, go for it kind of thing. And then, that's where he says, it's accept challenges worth the risk. And that's when I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the challenges are set in front of you, but it's still up to you to accept it or not. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. And then when you accept it, it's actually when you say the phrase, fuck it. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's true. It's always just in front of you, you don't seek it out. It's just kind of like, hey, here's another challenge. Would you like to accept it? And so that's kind of how that came about. And then, but it's funny, it's actually progressed and evolved because I analyze it based on my wisdom now, like from talking to so many people. And I used to think that we say fuck it because to live life without regret and accept challenges worth the risk.
What is that? What is
my
that?
phone actually ringing. Oh, hold on. Sorry, guys.
I'm like, what is that?
So, but what's funny is after kind of, analyzing it, this is years later, I actually saw that that's not the reason we say it. So we actually say it because we only say it, actually, let's figure out when we say it. So actually, we say it only when we've already made a decision. It's the only time. It's when you make a decision. The reason you say it is because you're actually confirming to yourself that you're going to follow through and commit to the decision you just made. I tell people all the time, it's like, dude, no one says, fuck it, I'm all in when playing poker and then back out. No one goes skydiving. Yeah, you can.
The dealer will be like, no, you're in. Too bad.
But no one goes skydiving and says, fuck it, and then not jump. People always challenge me and they say like, well, it depends on the action. And I'm just like, no. The action becomes automatically, like always. It's not a maybe you're going to do it once you decide, then it's not a true decision. Then you just never truly decided. But once you decide, everything is automatically. I always use this as my example so people understand. It's kind of like when people say there's no time or money, but then their best friends get married, and all of a sudden time and money shows up. Well, how the hell did that happen? You didn't win the lottery. You didn't all of a sudden like have so much time in your hands. The only reason that happens is because you change your perspective on the situation. You're not like, I don't have time or money to be going to a wedding. No, your perspective is actually, you know what? It's my best friend. He's about to get married.
Gotta go.
Should be once in a lifetime, right? Should be. I always say that now. It should be. And then you end up going. And all because you decided to go. But how did you get to go? Well, first you take off of work because you know exactly the date when they're going to get married. So you set the date and you take off. So there's your time. How about the money? Well, the money, you just kind of save money for it. Because you're like, shit, it's in a year. I better start saving for it. And then you end up going. But all that comes automatically. You don't go like, before I say I'm going to make a decision to go, I'm going to have to come up with the money. I have to take off. Like, no, those come afterwards, automatically.
Yep.
Automatically. And that's what was interesting actually with that book, reading it. The biggest thing I got out of it is where he says that the goals are actually the result.
Yeah.
And the identity is the result of your goal.
Right.
And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what does that mean? And it just made more and more sense because the goals. So this is what I've gotten from all my experience and reading books and watching inspirational stories and all this stuff. This is what I've learned. People get lost and lose their way and get fucked up because they lose their sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times what messes them up is because they're always asking themselves, what is my purpose in life? Right? Everyone always does that. The problem is you don't know what it's about because sometimes you've just never experienced it. You really want to experience as much as you want, as much as you can. And it's actually, the question is, what in life gives you purpose? So until you do things, you're not going to know what that is. That's why a lot of people are like, what's my purpose in life? Well, what are you doing? Like, if you're just sitting there, you're never going to find that out. You got to keep trying things, test things. And that's where the passion comes from. But anyway, once you have that purpose, it depends now what's your perspective on that purpose, right? If your purpose was to help people, basically becoming like a nurse or something because you really want to help people in the medical industry, things like that, right? If your perspective is, I'm stupid, I'm never going to graduate, that's so long, oh my God, I'm not going to go for 8 years of school. If that's your perspective and it's not in line with your purpose, so it's never going to work. So that's the only reason you need inspiration, inspirational stories that you see on TV, things that you read, things like that. The only reason you look at them, or it's the only time it's meaningful is when it actually changes your perspective. The reason is because once you change your perspective, then you can make a decision. Everyone is exposed to motivational shit, inspirational stories. You got freaking Instagram quotes,
Facebook all day,
Facebook videos all day long. You can watch every inspirational story on there. And guess what? They're meaningless. The only time they become meaningful is when you actually make a decision, right? I can tell you, start your own business. Dude, start your own business.
Just do it.
Yeah, like Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. I don't know if you're going to do it. I have no clue. I could say that a million times and I still have no clue. And that's what makes the Fuke clothing that reminds you to say fuck it more. You only have to say it once. Once you say, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to start my own business.
Decision done.
Decision is made. And all of a sudden, everything will follow. You research what you're starting a business on. You start partnering with people. You start building things out. Like it's all automatic. So when
all
people,
the steps, it just starts going right into motion right away.
Like I've had people kind of, ask me, yo, I've been wanting to start a clothing line. How do
I do it?
What do I do? How do I start?
Start.
And then, that's always my recommendation. I'm like, you start. Like, you haven't started yet? like, what are you waiting for? There's this thing called Google. It has a little bit of info on there,
Just a little.
And you really just have to start. And once you start, everything will follow. Like everything in what you do, everything. Some people refer to that as like the law of attraction. But really, it's because you've given yourself a sense of purpose, you change your perspective, and then you basically have made the decision. And then that's where the goals come in. The goals come in after the decision. It's not before. It's actually afterwards. Once you make that decision, then you create goals to achieve that. And that's actually why I say you have that. Now you go into that pursuit of happiness. Once you do all that in a row, that's when you're able to pursue happiness. I like the idea of the pursuit of happiness because it's always a pursuit. It's you're not just happy and then you're permanently happy. It's impossible. It's just not natural. That I always say it's just the law of supply and demand. It's called law of supply and demand, so it's really nothing you could do about it. When the more scarce things are, the value increases. When you're supplied too much of anything, the demand for it kind of goes down a little bit. So the value of it just kind of diminishes. It's kind of like when you're young, you don't really think time is anything. You'll waste your time all day at the beach doing absolutely nothing. But as you get older and older, you start feeling like, fuck, what am I going to do? Because your time is getting scarce. So the demand, the value for it becomes higher and higher. So that's why you actually end up, really having that value for life more, and that's kind of how it happens. So when you're trying to look for your identity, I know a lot of people, when we speak of identity, people always talk about like, feel lost. They don't know what to do. Every time I hear someone say they feel lost, I always say, what do you do when you're driving and you get lost? Do you actually put your car in park? Because that's what you're telling me right now. That's what you're doing. You're lost. Well, first fucking question, where are you going? Where are you going? You can't just keep driving around. You're always lost. If you don't know where you're going, you're always lost. So you got to take the advice of, if you make a wrong turn, but until you figure it out. So before you drive your car, you have to figure out where you're going. What's your purpose is basically what it is, and then once you figure out that purpose, you got to change that perspective, right? And then, so it's like driving a car. Once you say, and you can't just go, the purpose is very specific and it's actually a verb. Purpose is never a noun. You can't go, my purpose is to be the best nurse. Like it's very,
that's a goal.
Yeah, and it's finite, you know. I think what's his name? I think this is what Simon Sinek refers to as the infinite mindset. And when you have your purpose as a noun, it just doesn't work. It has to be a verb because it's ongoing. You don't want to be the best nurse. You want to be able to um, help as many people as possible through medical research or medical, taking care of them in the medical field or something. So now that becomes a purpose because that's ongoing. That never stops. You can make yourself better. You can make yourself more efficient, more effective, all that stuff. So you always want to do that. So when you're there stuck in a freaking car, like now that you know where to go, you probably made a couple of wrong turns. But you have to realize, like, all right, just because you made the wrong turn doesn't mean you can't get there. It may take you longer to get there, but what are you going to do? Just put it in park? Like, so you're just going to stay there. That's what you're going to do? So when you're lost, you're just going to stop. And right, it doesn't make sense when I say it that way. And that's what I'm hoping that I do, change people's perspective when that happens. But what you really do when you're lost and you figure out your way, you put your GPS on, right? It'll say like reroute because you took the wrong freaking turn. So now you just back up, figure out where you're going to go. One of the things, my brother said, when you're lost, don't worry. All roads are connected.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with your, what you're trying to achieve. There's always a way to fucking get there, but you have to figure out where you're trying to go or else you're never going to get there, right? Especially if it's a moving target. It's never going to happen. And so you're just like your GPS, you freaking start driving and then you say reroute. You're just going to take longer to get there. Mm-hmm. That's all. But there's a way to get there. Some people have a shortcut, mm-hmm. So you got to picture it that way. So when you're trying to find your identity, it's like afterwards. You can't go like, I'm going to be this kind of identity. And that's what people do all the time. They actually name themselves. And mm-hmm. that's why it's such a limitation because of their beliefs. For example, a lot of people will say, I'm an introvert. So
that's it. So they can be shy.
I can't do sales. I'm an introvert. Or I'm extrovert. So I don't know how you could stay at home. And that's just something you tell yourself. Good for you. But it's just almost an excuse. When you set a sense of purpose, what's cool about it is like, it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive because that's part of life. That's part of achieving this purpose. It's not because if you ask what you want to do, you're always just going to pick the easiest ones. Mm-hmm. You don't want to go through pain. Like, why would I go through the hardest road? Right? So why would I do that on purpose? Well, when you have a purpose, you actually don't think of that. You just go, how the hell am I going to get there? Some of these surfers want the best waves, and sometimes it sucks balls of what they got to go through. They're going through the jungle, walking through freaking the mountains, but they end up getting their waves. But they were just stuck on trying to find that perfect wave. That was their purpose, and that's what you have to kind of treat it as. And then all of a sudden, your identity will evolve. Your identity always evolve. Like
mm-hmm.
You're
not the same person you were
this
last
person
year.
is not the same girl I met 10 years ago.
Nope, not even remotely close.
Me neither. I'm more awesome now.
So am I.
But
you're the same pussycat.
Yeah, guys.
He is.
But that's what happens. It's always
nowhere near the same
dude,
person.
It's constantly changing. It's never just stops. And then like, all right, I'm gonna be like this forever now, babe.
Can't.
This is it.
You're not the same person you were a year ago.
Yeah.
Things in your life changed. You changed.
Especially when you experience things. So your experiences, and your decisions, that's what determine who you're going to be. And you're going to be different, especially when you go through trauma and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. When you go through trauma, your identity fucking gets rocked, right? When you go through anything kind of traumatic, and sometimes people don't, underestimate the little traumas. Something as simple as like something your dad said to you or a friend said to you that got stuck in your head forever. A teacher says you're dumb, mm-hmm. and it just gets stuck. It's nothing. Probably the teacher was just in a bad mood, and it stays with you forever. So those little traumas, sometimes that's what kind of like hurts you in the long term, and it really bites. But when you go through something traumatic like that, and what happens is your personality or your identity actually is like starts evolving. So you're always evolving. It's just kind of like a spurt, a quick one when you go through trauma. And the thing is, people that go through pain and stuff, it's like they're deliberately stopping themselves from evolving. So someone that goes through huge trauma, let's say, military, PTSD, right? They always just go, oh, I have PTSD. It's because they won't accept and embrace the pain. Like they keep trying to hide it, and they want to stay the same person they were before the trauma happened. And all they're doing is hurting themselves. So they're like preventing the change. But that has to change you, man. It has to change you. The same way when you have a positive traumatic event, like you get promoted for something. You can't be that same person before.
Right.
Once you get promoted to a new position, like, dude, it's a whole new ball game, new identity, new personality, new, you're not the same dude that was in high school that was like trying out for soccer and stuff. Like once you go in a corporate world, you have a whole new different scene, different environment, different friends, different people, different responsibilities, all that stuff. And so when people go through these traumatic events, it's like they prevent themselves from evolving. It's like, and they take, alcohol for it. They take drugs, and then they take pharmaceutical pills.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. But it all stems from your freaking mind, your mindset. And I actually heard today that the happy effects of antidepressants, most of it is actually based really on just your mindset. The placebo effect is because you think it's working. That's the only reason it's working.
Because they tell you when they give you the pills and on the paperwork that you get with the pills, like it's going to make you happy. It's going to make you smile more. And all of a sudden you're going to be happy and you're going to smile more. It's just like when you get a prescription drug or whatever, and it says, here are the side effects. Your right pinky is going to hurt.
Right.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, your right pinky hurts. Like,
yeah, that's when your perspective.
It's all in your head.
Yeah, when your perspective,
that stuff is.
It just follows.
Yeah.
So that's why I always talk about perspective, because all your decisions follow that. Once you have a sense of perspective this way, just everything you do, all of your decisions will follow that. So when people go like, "Oh, I'm a loser," like that's why it kind of sucks when people don't understand. When they get picked on in high school, they think their future version of themselves is going to be that person. It's like, dude, you're just in the beginning of life. My God, like there's so much more to experience after freaking high school, like there's so much more, like, right?
You're not the same person you are in high school.
Yeah. Everyone knows people from high school that changed completely from who they were to what they are now, dude. You're all right. But it always happens, it always happens.
Okay.
So people freaking do that. It's like, dude, you're always going to change. So don't think that your experience in high school, like people, these kids are committing suicide because their view and the blueprint of their life is that's who they're going to be forever. The ones that get out of it are the ones that, when you have the sense of purpose, you don't even think about that. You don't think about who you were, your identity, what you're about. You just kind of concentrate on a purpose. And once you have that sense of purpose, it's almost like everything kind of disappears. It's almost like the distractions don't even happen. Once you're focused on your purpose, it just happens. And there's going to be negatives, and there's going to be freaking positives. But when you're a purpose, you're just kind of doing that. And this is the part where I tell people, my experience with the perspective and stuff, the power of perspective and decision, all that stuff. It's I was my snowboarding story. Basically, for people that don't know this yet, I mean, I say it all the time, but still, I was going snowboarding, and I would go through the trees, through the glades, and they're like 10 feet apart, right? So it was very difficult to maneuver. So I'd always go 1, 2, 3, and then I'll hit a tree. And then sucks getting up. And then 1, 2, 3, I hit another tree. I'm like, what the fuck? And then my friend came and finally stopped and said,
Who was it? Anyway.
Joe Lewis.
Oh, it was Joe.
Joe Lewis.
He just sent you a thing on Snapchat.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he just sent you a thing on Snapchat.
Yeah, so Joe Lewis was the man that really helped me out with this. And he goes, dude, stop looking at the trees. Look at the path between the trees. I laughed and I'm just like, yeah, right. But he left, whatever. But what have I got to lose? So I tried it out. I got up and I'm like, all right, look at the path between the trees. Don't look at the trees. Got it. And I got up and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I actually purposely stopped. And I'm like, how the fuck did that happen? That was so odd. I didn't get any better, which was 2 seconds ago, you know? So how the hell did that happen? All I did was change my perspective on my situation. I didn't look at the trees. And so I recommend this when people with their life, with their sense of purpose, once you know where you're going, look at the path to where you're trying to go.
Not the obstacles in your path.
Yeah, when you focus on the obstacles, that's when you fucking hit them. For example, like people in bad relationships, right? I don't want an asshole that does this or this or this. And then boom, they're with another asshole. Like, how'd that happen? Because all you're doing is trying to avoid, hit, and then avoid, hit. That's what happens. But if you just look at the path to the person that you actually want, those kinds of guys, you won't even notice them because they're just obstacles in your way. Like, that's not it. And all of a sudden you get there. And that's kind of how it works. It just automatically happens. And that's why I would suggest, like, you have to have a sense of purpose or else you're never going to find your way. But yeah, anyone have any questions or comments? It really bites that our
speaker didn't show up.
Our speaker didn't show up. I don't know what happened there. I don't know.
The first one that hasn't shown up.
I know.
It's crazy.
And the thing is, we just emailed each other like
a couple days ago.
No, like today.
Oh, today.
I said, I'll see you in a couple of hours. I don't know what happened.
Rafael, where are you?
Yeah, I don't know where Rafael went. But anyway, whoever is on, ask us any questions. What's going on? What's going on in the world today? We got like 30 minutes left. Let's yap. So we're doing a lot of things with Start Day 1.
Oh, yeah.
Getting some thing on her. We just onboarded someone to join the team. She's really awesome.
She's volunteering all of her time and her efforts and her energy, which is amazing.
Yeah, she's actually from DC. Or DC, Maryland?
I think she technically lives in
Virginia,
but like that DC
Virginia
border.
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know, somewhere like that, but I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's down there. She's really making a lot of moves.
We've known her for about 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah, and we actually have some freaking fantastic, huge news. But I think we'll do that for next week.
We can't really tell anybody.
We can't tell anyone yet?
I mean, we can, but we can't.
Yeah, it's kind of huge.
I'd rather show.
It's like global.
I'd rather put like a little blurb up and show them a little picture. And thing instead of us just tell you what it is.
Yeah.
So, but there is something huge, really.
Yeah,
cool.
it's crazy.
Not even huge. It's just.
It's huge. What do you mean?
It's huge. And it's so exciting, and we are so grateful for it.
It's insane. I can't believe we're getting. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
So tune in next week.
We are stoked about it.
Yeah.
Who's our speaker next week?
Yeah, I don't know who our speaker is.
I'm gonna let you know next week.
Now. But it's crazy. So it's gonna be a big news. We're gonna tell you guys this week, next week, whatever. What is it now? Friday? No, Thursday.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, Minji's my guest next week.
Minji's
She's really cool. She's from California. We had some conversations. She's going to discuss more, I guess, that yin-yang philosophy, that you always need the light, the dark. So that's what we're going to discuss. It's always an interesting topic, because I believe it's necessary,
Definitely.
But I don't want to waste time talking about this now. I'll talk to her about that. And if you guys have any questions, it'd be awesome, to just ask our speakers these questions, what do you guys, what's your philosophy in this, or what do you think about this?
Hey, Anjali, we just talked about you. She just posted. She's watching us on Instagram. So that's what I'm doing. I got the phone watching this on Instagram. So we were just talking about you, Anjali.
Yeah.
We just were talking about that you
we're talking
came
about
in, and
so she's one of the the positive things that's happening with the Start Day One right now.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Start Day One is a nonprofit foundation for mental health, suicide prevention, and or raising money. Basically, there's different programs that we do. We have a more proactive approach.
Yeah.
We don't like the idea of waiting for people to have mental health issues. It doesn't make any sense to me. Everyone's always waiting. Like, let's wait until you have issues, then I'll help you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with physical health, right? It's like, oh, let me wait until you're overweight and then we'll go to the gym. That doesn't make any sense. No one. That's a bad mindset. That's a bad mentality. But what's crazy is that that's totally what we do in the mental health field. Like, totally what we do. We look for symptoms of suicidal tendencies. We look for symptoms of depression. Like, why are you waiting to find symptoms of depression? Teal. The color teal. This is the reminder. Whenever you see this fucking color, it stands for time, effort, attention, and love. Yeah. Those are things you can give
anyone
to help in suicide prevention.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the vegetables. When kids are around, you don't tell them to eat candy. Well, kind of do to bribe them, but you don't tell them to eat candy to stay healthy and prevent diabetes, right? No parent is going like, oh, I should be good. I know how to find symptoms of diabetes. So kids, eat every candy you can and drink Coke every day because I'll look for symptoms of diabetes. It's cool. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, totally. What everyone does is you tell your kids, go outside, exercise, eat your vegetables and all that stuff. So teal, time, effort, attention, love, those are the vegetables. You want to start giving that shit now. Like, not when they're depressed, not especially when they're suicidal. Like, you don't wait for that. You have to kind of so you kind of have to.
You know who that is?
No.
Oh, I thought you were laughing at.
So it doesn't really make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's always reactive. Like, I'll do it when this happens. Prevention is proactive, like, always. We do things proactively to prevent cancer. You try to eat right. You don't eat like crap. Same thing with diabetes, pretty much all physical issues.
Doesn't mean it's going to, prevent everything. However,
right. But so you really want to just, you really just want to kind of be proactive about everything that you do, and that's really what you want to do with prevention. It's always proactive. It's never reactive. Reactive, it's almost like it's too late. And like, I lost my brother to suicide. Like, we should have been giving him teal, not, oh, I see symptoms, because a lot of times it's difficult to see the symptoms. And sometimes there is no symptoms. Like, I mean, obviously there's some signs and stuff, but in any case, everyone always says, they act like surprised, like, oh my God, I can't believe Robin Williams would do that, or Anthony Bourdain. Oh no, things like that. It's like, well, why do you think it's impossible? I don't understand. So, why would you wait? So it's not something that you do. So everything we do, we always try to be more proactive about it. So yeah. So let's talk about other stuff. Now that we know about to be more proactive with things, any questions about that? I don't know if people kind of understand. Like, people don't really understand what we're trying to do, because everyone's used to just reacting.
Right.
Almost every suicide organization is very reactive. Call me at this phone number, which I'm glad they have it. So it's not like, don't be doing that reversal crap on me with what's going on today. And someone always has to say something wrong. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If they can call someone, awesome. But I'm just talking about prevention, so that the ones I talk to won't have to call you. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right.
I'm not saying don't call if you're already there.
Preventative.
But it's more preventative. You have to do things like that. So that's kind of what we're doing, And one of the things that I've learned from, dealing with people is a lot of people have, when they're in a bad state of mind, they actually hate accountability,
mm-hmm.
and they end up loving excuses. And that's kind of what is hurting everyone now, because we keep giving them like these excuses. And not that they mean to give them as excuses. It's just that when you're in a bad state of mind, you almost use things as an excuse, not on purpose, just because you have a negative state of mind. So you end up doing that. And so, like, for example, people that are walking around, with depression, it's become the excuse, but it doesn't make any sense. Depression is just the result.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the cause, but everyone has used it as the excuse, as if it's the cause. And that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like you're just stating a fact, your current state. It's like kind of someone that needs help, they're overweight, and all you're doing is like, you have obesity. And that's it. You just go, you have obesity.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look at the cause, what's causing obesity, nothing. They just go, oh yeah, I'm breathing heavily because I have obesity. That's
now
it.
there are some actual medical reasons why people.
But that's
are
the
obese.
why part, right? Like
those
right.
are different.
So yeah,
those are different.
So there's people that always like to argue about everything. So
yeah.
I just
those
want
are
to
different
say,
causes,
right?
So
it's not everyone. There's no blanket.
Those are different causes, right?
But that's kind of what people do when you talk about the result and try to remedy the result. You're actually not fixing
mm-hmm.
it permanently. It's only temporary. Another example are people that go to rehab, right? Sounds good, obviously. You forced them to, basically you took the beer out of their hands, right? Now they're in rehab. And I've learned that when people, go there and they're like, oh no, he went back to drinking again, back on a wagon. People say that, and it's just like, well, he was always on it, except you forced them off. Like,
right.
He's been on it.
It was forced by his family or by the courts or whatever.
Exactly.
That person didn't choose to go.
Not that it wasn't good for him. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you only remedied it very temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't fix the cause. And what's funny, I've talked to this one dude, he was in rehab, and I kept telling him, like, dude, it all starts with a decision. And then he just kind of looked at me, trying to look for an excuse, like, no, it's not that easy. And I'm like, I never said it was that easy. But I'm saying you have to make a decision, man.
Right.
And then he finally just said, you're right. And I'm like, wow. So this guy went to rehab, but he didn't even decide to get better. Like I didn't say, run a marathon. I just kind of said that you have to start with a decision, and always does. It always starts there, always. And so it didn't really make any sense. And so that's kind of, what we're telling people. It's like, you have to remedy the cause. Any problem. This is not just about mental health. This is about any problem,
mm-hmm.
whether it's in your startup, whether it's something at your home, any problem. You never look at the result. You have to look at the cause of it. What's causing the result? And that's how you fix things.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, when there's a flood in your garage or basement or something, and you have this carpet that gets wet, and then you keep getting this new carpet, but this one's going to be so much better and prevents the water from, when all it was a leak. Like,
fix the leak.
All you had to do was a little hole.
Remedy the cause.
You got to remedy the cause of the leak, not keep remedying the result. It doesn't make any sense. And people do that all the time. Look what's going on now in this world today. Everyone's just stating the result. Racism. Mm-hmm. What does that fix? Anyone? Nothing. Doesn't fix anything. Racism. You can't blame a noun. You can't blame a thing. It doesn't work. there's no solution to that when you just go racism. Well, what's causing it? What's causing the racism? That's where you got to go. That's when and then you got to keep asking these questions. Where's it coming from? And then that's how you remedy that. So, but anyway, we're actually supposed to be talking about identity.
Today we were.
Yeah. So I hope like people are kind of understanding, like, the biggest thing about identity is it's always evolving. Stop pigeonholing yourself into thinking you're this one type of person. You have this one type of personality, that you're just permanently this way, and basing it on just your experience, that you're always going to be an introvert, that you're always going to be extrovert, that you're never going to be able to do this because that's just not me. Like
you were born that way.
Yeah.
You're an Aquarius and that's who you are. Or you're a Gemini and that's your personality because the stars said so.
Right. And now science have shown that your personality, identity, it's very malleable. It always changes. It always evolves. At least the ones that gain success, their personalities are very malleable. It doesn't just stay as one type of person.
Your personality can't stay the same.
Yeah. Like,
how could it possibly?
Right. Like everyone knows Elon Musk looks very, introverted, right? But look what he's accomplishing. He's on the TV and this now, and it's really because he had a sense of purpose, and it doesn't matter what pains that he's got to go through. This is my purpose. I'm going to keep going, So you got to remember that about your identity, and your identity is a product. It's a result. You have to remember that, the more you try things, that's how you gain your passion. That's how you get your identity, who you are. That's why people sometimes, like when they do it reverse, right? They like, I'm going to be a doctor. And then all of a sudden they're miserable because they just created the identity, like just out of nowhere. Like, I think I'm going to be kind of like when people go like, I think I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Well, what?
That's
what are you doing?
Yeah, that's not how it works.
Not how it works.
It's not how it works. Usually entrepreneurs usually try to solve problems, and their purpose is something a little bit bigger, obviously. And then the perspective on it changes, and then all of a sudden they do things, and then they make goals and stuff like that. So it just kind of keeps on going. Yeah, I don't know really what else to say to everyone. I really wish Rafael showed up. It would have been a lot easier.
Put you back up one more time, Rafael.
Yeah, so this is the person we were supposed to talk to, and we don't know what happened to him.
We don't know what happened to him, but he seemed really, really interesting. He's got an interesting story.
Yeah.
He just packed up and left Brazil because he's a homosexual. It's not, I know we said this earlier, but it's not really accepted in Brazil. So he just packed up his shit and took off and moved to London, didn't speak the language, didn't anything. And he, started from working in a kitchen, being like a busboy and washing dishes. And now he's, a TEDx speaker and an author.
Success.
And he is a true success story.
He's got his own startup that he's working on that actually connects like journalists and I guess anyone that's like thought leaders, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting what they're doing with that. Hopefully we're going to get some speakers from that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, what's happening. We've talked to so many interesting people, right?
So many interesting people. We have a few interesting people coming up, which is sick.
Yeah. I can't wait for Benjamin Hardy. Can't wait, man.
Yeah, Dr. Hardy. I can't wait.
Dr. Hardy, the guy.
I'm actually going to read the book again before we talk to you.
His book is awesome. So I can't wait to talk to the author. It's on July 30th. That's kind of cool.
That's when he's on July 30th?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a really interesting, conversation.
Because it's in line. So I want to ask him some questions, obviously. I want to make sure I'm saying the right things. Everything's consistent. That's what we try to do every time. That's another thing that doesn't help people. You have to have a consistent thought pattern, consistent philosophies. You can't say one thing and then do something else. And it just doesn't mess up.
Everything's got to be consistent.
Yeah, and that's what's happening right now with everything.
There's no consistency.
There's no consistency with the riots, BLM, and like all this stuff. Your sense of purpose is just inconsistent, like with what you're doing. So it's like That's why it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to rethink that, like you have to have a solid, consistent, valid, perspective on things. And unless you have that, you can't just go like, well, it's different. Well, that depends. Like you can't do that. It has to be like something set, like this way. This is your perspective. This way you do, and it's the only way your decisions are going to follow all that. And if it's inconsistent, well, it's going to clash somewhere else. So it's really hard. Like some people, for example, want to party like rock stars, but they want to be successful like early in life, and it's just like that's very difficult.
Pick
Obviously
one.
there's those rare ones that make it. They party on YouTube and all of a sudden they get hit and they rock, they kill it. But
become successful, then party like a rock star.
Yeah, it really depends, but yes, you got to do that. So yeah, anyway, where are we at? 51 minutes.
51 minutes.
Gonna give it an opportunity to go to that hour. But yeah, anything else about identity that I kind of failed to?
About identity?
Yeah, identity, finding your identity. So it's funny, he always says, actually, what we were talking about, it was to lose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, kind of like what we're talking about, losing yourself, really, it's like experiencing more things.
It's like really almost finding yourself.
Yeah, you know what it is letting go of that type of personality or identity that you're so stuck on. Like, dude, let that shit go.
Yeah.
You're no longer that person.
Yeah.
And
it's actually like, and you have to allow yourself to be uncomfortable at times too.
Yeah.
You have to allow that.
Yeah.
So you can learn and grow about who you actually are.
You actually don't create your identity. The identity actually creates your personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not the other way around.
Right.
Like, and yeah, and it really just comes down to like more experiences, the better, So, yeah, that's pretty much, I don't know if anyone has any questions, anyone have any insights on that about, having their identity and stuff. But would have been an interesting topic, Rafael.
Would have been an interesting conversation.
It would have been interesting.
Rafael,
I was curious.
Here.
I was curious about your experiences, what you went through.
Yeah, he apparently, when you read his website, he apparently went through some stuff.
Yeah,
and
I wanted to just people to relate, because the whole idea is to change people's perspective when people can relate. Well, and
especially with the whole thing with the LGBTQ thing going on. I know it was Pride Month last month, or a couple days late, but we do this on Thursday, so we couldn't get him in June. But nonetheless, I think he would have had a great perspective on that as well, and losing yourself and finding yourself and packing up and moving to a new country and just accepting your life and who you are and moving forward and becoming successful when everyone else where you're originally from told you no, like you're no, you got to go, kind of thing. And he just turned around and said, screw you, I'm out and watch me. That kind of,
and it's great.
And he's done it. So I think that's awesome.
And that's really the cool part.
Inspiring.
Yeah. And that's the cool part. He didn't stick with that identity that he had, the past version of himself.
Mm-hmm.
He saw himself as someone else, that I'm so much better than this. So let me fucking get the hell out of here. And because he knew that the only way for that future version of himself to happen was he has to leave Brazil.
Yeah. And he did. And
that's what he did. That's what you do. That's what you automatically do. And it all, again, it starts with purpose, perspective, and then you make that decision. Once you make that decision, everything comes automatically.
Just falls into place.
So he fucking left, and he made shit happen. And that's what happened.
Who else did we talk to? Was it Angela the other day when we were talking to someone who said like you had to make it, you made a decision and then it just kind
of happened.
You had to made it. Who made a decision and shit just fell into place?
Oh, I don't know. I forgot. But that's always happens.
Yeah, we were talking, but someone had a story, and I'm trying to remember the story. I can't remember what story it was.
Yeah,
but someone made a decision, like you know what, this is what I have to do, and it just fell into place, and like a snowball effect, and all of a sudden,
yeah, that's right. Maybe it was Angelique.
Maybe was it you, woman?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know people always talk about it as if it's like this magical thing, like law of attraction, but it's because you've made a decision.
Yeah.
And so your mind just opens up to all these opportunities based on that decision. It just follows, just like my example before about.
It was Angela.
Oh, okay.
It was you. I knew I was right.
Yeah, so it's just like, when people, like the wedding thing. Oh, perspective, no time or money. And then you change your perspective, going to your best friend's wedding, all of a sudden your decision just automatic, and then everything follows.
Yep.
So, and that's what we did. Look at friggin' what we did with like the start day one. Like we know nothing. Oh, there's a deer.
Yeah, they keep eating all my flowers.
So it's not about, I know, I'm like squirrel.
Yeah, we did, the same thing, like you said, with start day one. Like we didn't know anything about running a nonprofit or even starting a nonprofit.
Right.
So
we just had our sense of
research
purpose
and said, this is what we need to do. This is what we want to do. And these are our goals. And this is why we want to help people. And this is how we want to help people.
Yeah.
And
we didn't go, let's start let's start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
It's more
didn't happen like that at all.
We're doing Fuki clothing, we're doing this stuff. And then we're like, man, how the hell can we help more people? Like, it's kind of hard with the clothing and, how are we going to get to,
and it is hard. It's actually a whole nother business.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a lot on us.
But everything just comes automatically. Like we just kind of go on it.
We just did it.
We make our decision and then everything comes automatically.
Yep.
We figure it out. And that's what you have to do. It just all starts with a decision.
Because we had a decision and we had a goal. We had a purpose for what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
and that's the best
here
thing
we are with start day one.
That's the best thing about purpose. It's like once you have that purpose, you got to ask yourself, the right questions. Don't people automatically ask wrong questions that allows them to give the excuses of why they can't do it or they shouldn't do it. And that all figure out your purpose first and then work on changing your perspective. Don't try to determine your purpose based on your perspective. I hope that made sense. That makes sense? So you want to set your purpose first. Like
4 P's.
Yeah. I call it my 4 P's. Starts with your purpose. Then you need inspiration to change your perspective. Once you have that perspective, you use the power of decision. Once you have that decision, everything comes automatically. And once the decision is made, that is when you need the motivation. So that's the difference between inspiration and motivation. Inspiration is meant to change your perspective. Completely useless unless it changes your perspective and unless you make a decision. Completely useless. Motivation, completely useless before the decision. Completely useless. You can't have a fucking goal and motivate yourself to do something you don't want to do. It just doesn't happen. It's when you already know what you want to do and then you have someone to motivate you. So motivation comes afterwards. And that's why here becomes now the pursuit of happiness. So those are the 4 P's. It's the purpose, perspective, the power of decision, and then the pursuit of happiness. Pursuit is an ongoing thing. It's forever and ever. You're going to be freaking on your deathbed and you just want to just keep smiling. And it's basically what Maslow refers to as self-actualization. First is shelter and this and that. And then once you achieve that, it's like, you just got to keep on going. Happiness is not finite. You don't just become happy and then that's it. It's temporary. It changes.
Because once you're happy, well, now something else needs to make you happy because all of a sudden that happiness fades.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, when I refer to like comparing entrepreneurship with, your personal brand, I guess. These companies that you think are huge now, for the kids that don't know what the hell AOL was. AOL, we thought was going to rule the fucking world, man.
We're like, oh my God, there's AIM.
Like, whoa, oh my God, America Online is going to rule the world.
Dial-up, internet.
Gen Z doesn't even know shit about AOL. And then look at Amazon, look at Facebook. So they're always constantly innovating because if they don't, they'll be gone. It's the only thing constant is change, right? Same thing with yourself. If you don't evolve, you don't change, dude,
the rest will follow.
It's not going to help you. It's going to hurt you,
Yep.
So, yeah. So looks like we're at that hour, man. Thank you guys so much. Whoever's watching, maybe a little bit about,
watched.
maybe, let me tell you why we're even doing this. With Start Day One, so we actually tried to, raise funds for Start Day One. Basically, because of our proactive approach, we really want to distribute content in advance so that you can actually get out there and help people. Like I said before, people don't need help because they're suicidal. They need help. That's why they're suicidal. You got to help them proactively so that they don't get there. And so that's what we're trying to do with these videos. The only reason I'm doing this, I'm hoping someone out there, it's unpredictable. I'm telling you right fucking now, it's unpredictable who's suicidal or not. That's why you can't it's hard to prevent, right? And so I assume everyone is. And this is what we're trying to do with this content, because I'm hoping one person just, listens to this and goes, fuck, damn, he's right. Once I change your perspective, it goes from freaking this bad negative perspective to this positive one. And then all the decisions will follow that. But we're always changing. So the perspective doesn't exactly stay permanently that way. That's why you need inspiration. And so we're hiring different speakers to help us with this. That's why we try to raise funds for it, because person to person is always better. So going into schools, military bases, rehab centers, what do you call it? First responders, things like that, people people are already stressed out. Like, don't wait until they're suicidal. They're already stressing, man. Right. You got to get in there. Don't wait for a suicide to happen in your school and then bring in a speaker.
Yeah, it's too late. It's after the fact.
That's not prevention. Again, that's always going back to being reactive. Like, you have to do that beforehand. Don't assume all your kids are happy just because they're not suicidal or you don't see symptoms.
It's everything. And everything should be based on prevention. It's like you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned to prevent cavities.
Right.
It's prevention. Women go to the gynecologist and get pap smears and what have you to prevent, ovarian cancer and all these other things.
The same thing applies.
Same thing applies.
Same
it's all
thing
preventative,
applies.
And that's what we're really trying to do. Yeah, it does. It totally applies with mental health.
And so, if we could, text start day 1 to 44321, and we could really use your help, especially now with the quarantine. Loneliness is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest catalysts. It's actually worse than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it causes a lot of physical diseases, actually, or physical ailments and stuff like that. But in this time, and there's suicide is probably gonna be like really bad.
Especially because we've been locked down for so long, and I don't know where everyone lives, but in New Jersey where we are, it's like we were locked down, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, we're allowed to do a couple things. We're allowed to do a couple more things. And, oh, we're going to do this. And then it was like, no, psych. We're taking it all back from you 2 days before we thought we were going to let you do stuff. And now you're locked down again. So people have gotten over being locked down for so long. And then we were excited we were able to go out and do things. And now we're no longer able to do that again.
Yeah.
So I think the whole mental issue is
not
going to
only
be a
that,
problem.
With everything that's going on.
They re-locked down Florida.
Everyone's getting their unemployment and all that stuff.
Everyone's
right
unemployment's going to run out too.
Right.
That's the worst
part.
That
has to run out.
It's going to.
So we haven't even seen
the effects of that.
The negative effects of COVID-19. Like, we haven't even experienced it. Like, you think the quarantine was the bad part.
This is nothing.
Like, this is so not the bad part. And that's why we're kind of doing this, to proactively go out there and make sure we change people's perspective right now.
Yeah.
Because when they find out that their job is never going to be there and that unemployment is going to run out, we're going to have fucking issues. Like, we're going to have a lot of issues. Look at business owners.
So many have closed down.
Look at all the kids that, don't even get to experience their...
They don't even get to go to graduation. They couldn't graduate proms. The poor kids that didn't get to go to their senior prom.
We're very social beings. Terrible. So, preventing that from happening, it's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So, so please, help us with our cause. And that's what we're trying to do, with our... and this actually, COVID has really stalled our progress, but we're doing what we can.
Doing what we can. That's why we're doing this every week at Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
And usually we have a guest speaker with us, but he's not here today.
He skipped out on us without any message, nothing.
Well, we hope nothing happened to you, Rafael. There's no problems, because he's in the UK. So I know that they got re-locked down as well. So I don't know what's going on. So hopefully everything's okay.
Yeah, so hopefully he's all right. That's why we decided to continue with promoting him and stuff like that.
Of course.
We really wanted to kind of have him on
the chip one more
on
time.
The show. So this is his information,
You can check him out. Very cool.
Right.
Very cool. Very cool.
We're not mad at you, Rafael.
I hope you're okay.
We're not mad at you. But I hope to hear from you.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll just postpone it to another time.
Yeah, definitely.
But I guess that's it. So anyone that's listening, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please share the stuff that we're doing for Start Day 1. It would really be awesome. And until next week, we're going to talk to Minji from California.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's it.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you again for watching.
Have a good night.
Until next week.